Okay, hi everyone. My name is Gabriele Aimone. I'm the director of Helsinki Games Capital. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is often overlooked, but is of highly importance. So without losing any more time, I would like to ask our guests, our panelists, to introduce themselves, starting maybe from there.
Hello, I'm Claire Panter. I'm the Director of Player Support at Lockwood Publishing, who make Avakin Life, which is a social game and virtual world for mobile.
Hello, and I'm Mikael Jensen. I've been the CEO of Momio, which is a social media app for kids. And now I'm an independent consultant working and advising about implementing AI into businesses.
Hello, my name is Mari-Sanna Paukkeri. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Utopia Analytics, which is a text analytics company and does online content moderation using AI. My background is in machine learning and computational linguistics. I have a PhD on that.
Hi, and my name is Pascal Debroek. I'm head of customer service at Hatch Entertainment. I've been working for plenty of years in the gaming industry so far, now heading the customer support department at Hatch Entertainment, which is our cloud-based game streaming service.
All right, now you have to all repeat that, starting from Pascal. Okay, this was a lot to know, but great. Hey, I would like to start actually from Pascal and ask you a nice question. So me and you actually worked on a pretty successful game. Me and Pascal worked on Clash of Clans and A-Day, and they both had a chat. And clearly it was a big part of the success of those games. And I would like to ask you to make some sort of list of pros and cons and why having a chat it's important to have in a MMO or that type of game.
All right, that's a very loaded question, I would have to say. First of all, you have to understand that we as humans, we are social mammals. So we like to talk to each other, we like to belong to a group of people that we can identify with. And with that, obviously, communication plays a big part in that. Understanding that, I would also say that it would depend on the type of game that you're having, whether you would invest in chat or not. If you're not having a game that has social features, I would first ask why, but still, it would be important to have it in a game that has social features, not necessarily as needed in a game that does not have any social features. The good and the bad. The good would be, well, like I said, people like to be part of a community. They like to actually talk to each other. It would increase your retention. If people don't feel like they can talk within a game to each other, to their friends, to their clanmates, or anything like that, they would most likely either not play your game for a long time, or they would move the conversation on a different platform other than your own, and then that would mean that you would lose control on what is actually being said. The other good part would actually also be that you as a developer, you can tap into this almost free kind of feedback channel. Like if you analyze the data that comes in through that, you can figure out what people are talking about your game or your app or anything like that. For instance, features that they actually find annoying, which is immediately can be labeled as a UX improvement, or you have an actionable thing that comes out of that. But also things that they really like if there is a particular kind of item that they like within your game or a particular kind of feature, then you can double down on that as a developer. The cons, this is the loaded part, I would have to say. Well, we all know that we as human beings, we also need rules, otherwise it would be anarchy. Very much the same thing actually in chats as well. Like without rules or anything like that, people will actually show the worst of themselves at certain times. Not everyone, I'm not judging anyone here in this room. But there is a lot of people that actually do hide behind anonymity on the internet, in games, and that could actually bring the worst out of people. And then you're going to deal with topics like, well, just plain toxicity. It can be anything from vulgarity to swearing to threats, self-harm, or sexual predators. So those are things that you actually need to be aware of as a developer. And now I hope that I didn't say that you should not implement chat, because it is important. Like the benefits outweigh the negativity.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very good answer, and I think there's a lot that we can take from it. But moderating is clearly like the topic here. As Pascal said, yes, there are lots of good things. You have to be aware of what's negative. So moderation comes into play into this specific topic. And I would actually like to ask Claire. So I would like to ask, since you have games that are in many languages, you have lots of players and so on, and what could you share with us a bit, like challenges that you have encountered, or for example, how do you tackle like the possibility of having toxic behaviors in the in-game chat, and how do you make sure the players are safe?
Yeah, so I'd like to just start off by reiterating really that the vast majority of our players are positive, fun, creative people, and that's definitely reflected in the chat, and I would encourage anyone to have such a feature. But of course, whenever you've got user-generated content, then you are opening yourselves up to a certain level of risk. Luckily for me, Pascal's just actually listed quite a lot of the bad ones, so I can sort of skirt that one. But so we approach it in a number of different ways. So first of all, we have an in-game filter, and we filter all of our usernames and any of our user-generated content. So that's our first challenge, because players do not wish to be filtered. And so that's definitely a kind of an ongoing process for us. We use Community Sift, and we work very closely with a great team there who help make sure that the tool that we're using is constantly evolving as our community is evolving, and that it's at the right level for our community. We tend to have a slightly older audience, older teens and young adults, so it is definitely a balance between blocking out kind of potentially really toxic content, but allowing them to have a bit of freedom of speech and have the experience that they want to have. The second part for us is giving players tools as much as possible for them to be able to choose what sort of content they have access to. So we allow players to mute or block other players, and failing that, they can report those to us. And we have a team of human moderators that will then review those. And then the final level for us, and the most important for me, is that we also proactively moderate for the biggest issues that we're most concerned about. So we work with a number of different companies and use different tools to kind of detect the most problematic behaviour. And so we monitor chat, and they will get prioritised again for our moderation team to review. So for example, we search for players saying that they're underage, that they're too young to use our service, or we might filter for kind of traditionally just kind of vulgar or harassing comments, but we actually proactively moderate for bullying behaviour, which looks at a lot more in depth into that kind of behaviour over time.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, moving on to Mari-Sanna, so Claire already listed, I mean, she made a very long list of so many different areas or aspects where moderator teams or the company itself are really trying to be proactive and try to tackle this toxicity in chat. How can an AI or machine learning can tackle this and replace, if you want, or help the human interaction or the human moderation? Would you like to share something about?
Yeah, there are different kind of AI tools which have different features, obviously. We have Utopia. We have created an AI that learns from human decisions how to moderate. And we built separate AI models for each customer company, according to their own moderation policy. And there can be all these kind of things what you explained, or something else, whatever is important in your community to be moderated automatically. And we are able to do 100% of the content, moderate 100% of the content automatically, which is quite a lot.
Okay, that's moving on to Mikael, actually, which is the last one of the round, of the first round. There's going to be many more, but you used machine learning before. And I really would like to ask you, like, what was your experience? Would you recommend it, and to whom, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, first, maybe just go a bit back in time, because Momio is a social media for kids, targeted at 7 to 13-year-old, and it's very important that safety is top notch, and it's in several countries. Different languages, and back in 2017 we had more than 1 billion messages being on the platform, and it was simply not possible to moderate all that content in any way. And I mean, you have a challenge also at night and weekends, holidays, and you really need to have 24/7, 365 moderation going on, and it's really difficult if you rely on human moderation and also your own filters and systems. So we started looking for actually applying AI, and we entered a collaboration with Utopia Analytics in 2018, and then we basically started out in the Finnish language, because we knew that the Finnish language is one of the most difficult in the world, and if we could make it work in Finnish, then we could probably make it work anywhere. So we embarked together with Utopia Analytics to basically make a model in Finnish, and it worked really well. And then it was just basically getting it into all the other languages thereafter. So what is now happening is that every content is pre-moderated. So if it doesn't, perform up against the rules that we have defined, or as Momio has defined, then it will not be published, and the user will also get feedback saying, okay, what you're trying to publish here is bad content, it's bullying or other stuff, or you're trying to get someone else's password or whatever it is, and then there's a learning mechanism going on right there and there, and so the kids or the users, they basically get an instant feedback if they're not doing the right thing, and then they can basically make a new post, and then it goes through if it's okay. So this learning mechanism is also really important. So yes, I can just say that applying AI to services that has a lot of user-generated content is basically a must, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I mean, I would recommend AI to any kind of processes where you have a lot of humans doing repetitive tasks. Then I think they are all ripe for AI automation.
Thank you very much. And so this sounds obviously freaking amazing, and I'm really excited about this sort of technological help that we can get while we make our games. But moving to Mari-Sanna, actually, so again, this sounds great on paper. Mikael said very nice words, but in practice, if I'm a developer and I want to implement such a tool, for example, any software of that kind in my game, what does it take? There are changes to be made in my project management, schedule the programmers to do the integration and so on. Could you share what's the process behind it for integration?
Always when we are talking about technology, and AI is like any kind of technology, it needs a proper product which needs to work in practice. And we have focused a lot in the Utopia AI how to make it work in practice and as quickly and easily as possible. So we have a process that we get training data from our customers, and it takes only 2 weeks for us to build a production quality AI model which follows that customer's own moderation policy. And we have also made some decisions in the integration, how to take that tool into use at customer systems, that it is as easy as possible. So it should only take from 2 to 3 days to do the integration to our API. And everything is done as easy as possible because you can do it very easily. AI is very difficult to maintain, and we have decided to keep the AI maintenance in our end. We have doctors who are able to do that and who have tens of years of experience of handling production AI models. So we do that part.
All right. Thank you for the explanation. Pascal, I'm going to get back to you now. So what I see now, I've been in the game industry for a while, and I see more studios building their games and actually staying away from the chat, or trying to either not integrate it or just use third-party services for it that can do the job for you. But based on what you just learned and what you just hear from Mari-Sanna, Mikael, and so on, if you were a game developer today, would you give it a go?
Well, I would definitely give it a go. I mean, I have actually already been using tools that do moderate in-game chat. But as maybe a wider kind of point, maybe towards the audience as well, I would have to say that there are most likely different types of studios out there. You have the ones that are actually looking at social media right now, and that are looking like, oh my God, did you see what happened with that game, and how toxicity seeped from their platform onto social media. We wouldn't want to do that, so let's not build in chat. And okay, fair enough decision. I wouldn't go that route, still based on what I said earlier, that I do feel that the communication channels, you need to have them in a game that is supposed to be social. And everything is pointing out towards more social games happening rather than just single player experiences. I'm not talking about console here, obviously. But on the other hand, you also have developers that would rather say, especially startups, I would have to say, or people who are just bootstrapping their studio or anything like that. Usually tools or even developing chat, actually it takes resources, it takes money, it takes additional set of hands, because I mean, what Mari-Sanna said, it's not that easy to just plug something in and it's done. It requires, well, on their end it requires, of course, people that retrain or train the AI. On the other hand, you also need a human factor on your end as a developer. So you're putting extra resources into that. But yeah, I would definitely go for that, because if you're not doing it, if you're just thinking like, hey, let's just add chat and not consider the consequences, it's going to be disastrous. Like, you have companies that decide like, hey, let's do this very 90s style kind of blacklist, whitelist kind of implementation, which most likely no one in the company has responsibility over. No one knows when it has last been updated, and how do you update languages that you're not even fluent in? So AI is, in that sense, the future. It allows for a way more scalable solution, and well, just makes your game so much more social. And it relieves the pressure from your moderation team or your CX professionals. They don't need to worry about needing to read through all the chat logs in order to figure out where someone was cursing, or someone actually cried out for help and no one actually managed to be there. Like, AI can definitely help with those kind of things. So yes, definitely go for solutions like this.
Thank you. There are also interns for that.
Let's not go there.
Just kidding. But hey, Claire, moving on to you. So your games are in multiple languages. So clearly what Pascal just said, it multiplies in terms of difficulty or maintenance. Can you share something about it? How do you maintain all this?
Yeah, I'd definitely say that it's one of our biggest challenges, particularly because context is so important in moderating online content. We localise in 12 different languages on Avakin Life, and we're still a relatively small player support and moderation team. I'm obviously English. The majority of our team are English. So it's a really big challenge. Broadly, we take the same approach that as we do in English, that we filter in our languages and give players the same support as we would in English. And then we have some dedicated support in-house to support our biggest markets. So for us, in addition to English, it's Russian and Portuguese. So we have a dedicated team to support those languages. And outside of that, at the moment, the most scalable way that we deal with it is to work with some really great partners who offer multi-language support. So we work with Keywords on the player support side and Mod Squad on our moderation side, and that enables us to support lots of languages and scale up as needed.
Thanks. Oh, yeah, that's the way we also did it in the past, where we worked before. So I agree that I would rather have what Mari-Sanna just described. But hey, Mikael, actually, we just had a very nice conversation over a cup of water, a very boring cup of water. Actually, it was about yes, all these solutions are nice, all this technology is nice for the kids. We are parents, and do you think we should there be a way to educate also grown-ups about this? I mean, it's inevitable that our kids are going to use this technology and are going to be exposed to certain kind of behavior. So, do you think we should do something about, or how to? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is mind-boggling. I think it's UNICEF saying that 1/3 of the internet users across the world are actually kids or people below 18 years of age. 1/3, and if you look at it, I mean, it's not 1/3 of all games and services that are made for kids. So many kids and youngsters are actually using adult services or services that are not meant for them. And they are quite let alone because maybe the parents are they don't really know much about what's going on at school. They don't talk about it. So maybe they have their friends there that they can discuss with. But yeah, so I think both the service providers, they need to step up a bit and be a bit more digital responsible and acknowledge also that you have users that are quite young where you need to help. And then I think also it is very important that parents get some education, basically, about how to talk to your kids and what to talk to them about, actually. Because it is, you don't, I mean, if you use this traffic analogy, I mean, you don't just put your kids out and say, okay, let's go from London to Bedford, and you just find out how to do it yourself. Maybe you start from going in a neighborhood, and then you teach them how to move around, and then they get better, and then you teach them how to bike and whatnot. But I mean, in the digital space, that is not really happening. So yeah, I think many instances, both parents, educators, service providers need to step up a bit. Yeah. And I think being digital responsible is also applying AI and actually taking a stance and pre-moderating your content. So the very small fraction of the users are not polluting, you could say, the nice experience of everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. And actually, I think it was a few years ago that there was some sort of there was a talk about community manager or community management being one of the most difficult job in today's tech world because of the mental health challenges you're constantly reading or having to go through or moderate this sort of content, and it wears you out. So I absolutely agree. And actually, maybe one last question to Mari-Sanna, and this is more of an open question. It's based on what we just discussed, what Mikael just mentioned. Do you think this type of software are used enough, and if not, why?
Yeah, there are not many companies that use AI in moderation, even though there is huge amount of online user-generated content online. People feel bad. Governments are creating new laws how to make the companies to take care of their users and also their employees who do the online moderation. So definitely there needs to be something done. Obviously, since we have a tool that could be used by companies, I'm saying good words about that. But also my personal opinion is that the bad behavior that happens online should be restricted, and since the volumes are huge and the high peak of those comments can come any second, there needs to be automated ways to take care of all of that. And then we need to understand the fact that there are hundreds and thousands of different languages in the world. So that makes also it much more difficult to handle than what has happened in the real life world earlier. So there's definitely a place for AI to get better and take place.
All right. I think we are close to run out of time, so if any one of you have any question, yeah. Do you need a microphone or something? Okay.
No, actually you do, because otherwise the camera doesn't get your question.
It's this one.
Thank you. We will have to interview afterwards.
Yes. How do you balance the requirements of GDPR and chat logs in ensuring that you're in compliance with both the government, but at the same time ensuring that your users are safe and that you have proof in case the authorities come to find out based on a suicide case or something like this? How do you balance that?
Mari-Sanna?
GDPR is a law and we have to follow it, and everyone has to follow it. Actually, in Finland, we have had a bit more strict laws earlier. So for us, it hasn't been a big change. The law makes you to be careful in using the users' names and identifiable information. But of course, in the same way as any kind of product, you need to take care of your data and handle it carefully. So I think there is not a big deal in that. You just do all the things what the law asks you to do. So we definitely do that.
As a foreigner in Finland, I can say that they follow the law, always. Any other question? All right. Well then.
I have one.
Okay.
If they okay, I will ask one.
Okay.
You guys were talking about working with different languages. When you're working with AI, how do you solve the problem that sometimes an expression that is highly offensive in one language, probably in the language where you develop the game, but then when you translate to other languages, not necessarily is as offensive? How do AI work with these cultural differences?
I can maybe step in here because basically building AI models, you need a lot of training data. So it is actually the company that having the data that defines the rules and is making up or giving the AI what is okay and what is not. So if you do. I mean, if you're making an AI model in German and another one in Finnish, for example, I mean, then you can have language-specific or cultural-specific decisions. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And now, yes.
Okay. Well, then let's give a hand to our panelists. Thank you very much.